Welcome to the Nicole L. Turner Show. I am so honored to have these two beautiful women with me today as we talk about navigating life after divorce, self-discovery, self-love, empowerment. Thank you, Adrienne Owens and Josie Robinson, for joining me today. How are you feeling?
Feeling great.
Feeling excellent.
Excellent is the word for the week. Excellent. Because we don't say that enough. We don't say feeling great enough. We're usually like, I'm good.
You're right.
Great and excellence. That's what we're aiming for.
Good for a Monday.
But thank you both for being here and willing to engage in this conversation. As we know, life after divorce, you're embracing change, you're trying to find who you are again, and you're also healing from losing the marriage or the grief that comes with a marriage coming to an end. And you've been divorced for about 9 years, and Josie, I know you're early in the process. You're going through a separation. You haven't made it to divorce yet. But I really want to ask you, what has this journey been like for you as you discover who you are, what you like, what you're passionate about, what makes you happy? How's that been for you?
Okay.
It's been really good. It's definitely been an opportunity for self-discovery that I didn't give myself while I was in the marriage. Mm-hmm. You definitely can get it while you're there as long as you take time for it. I didn't know how. I didn't know the balance between the two. So that was the piece for me that I owned, that I forgot about me. So in remembering who I was, I started by traveling. And I did a lot of solo travel. And during solo travel gave me a lot of self-discovery and a lot of questions that I had to answer for myself to find Adrienne.
I love it.
Yeah.
What about you, Josie?
And for me, again, as you pointed out, being in the early stages, the first piece of it for me was just navigating the legalities of it and, knowing that the system is set up and designed for you to stay in bad situations because of all the paperwork, and each state has its own rules and then the costs associated with that. So learning that process. And then for me, once my kids understood what was happening and I had their support, it was just a level of support I never could have imagined. Mm-hmm. And so once they were on board and I had that level of support, I was able to then look at, what do I need to do next? Mm-hmm. Who am I? What do I want to do? I have to go through this divorce thing, but also just discovering myself along the way. It sort of looked like what you mentioned, the traveling. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's that 14-hour drive to Mississippi. And me and my playlist and God, you're praying, you're crying. It's so many different emotions that you have. Because my playlist is a range of music. Mm-hmm. So you can be dropping like it's hot one moment and then you're praising God the next. And so through that, when I get home, Mississippi, I feel relieved, like a weight has been lifted, and I resolved a lot of things on that drive. So mine started, I feel like my marriage was on a decline. I knew this was happening at least 15 years ago. And so I started my solo drives by myself and my solo trips just to gather my thoughts and get myself together. So that's what the beginning looked like for me.
One is that they always say music is therapeutic.
Yes, I agree.
And it's something about just you and God's air, you and the music, you and nobody else's thoughts. And you really get to be centered with that. Have you discovered on your journey some things about yourself that you didn't know? Some things that you like? Some new hobbies you wanted to take on? Some things you're very passionate about? Or did you reconnect with some parts of you that you had abandoned while you were in the marriage?
Mine was more of a reconnection. So getting back to, asking yourself that question, what makes me happy? And knowing that it's writing, it's journaling, it's traveling, going to the beach. It may be painting. So I love to cook and bake. I mean, you guys see my posts.
Yes, yes she does.
Yes, and she's really good at it.
And so even though my kids their age range is age 28 to 32. And so I don't necessarily have them there to cook all these large meals. I'm accustomed to preparing a meal for 6 people. So now it's more like bake this and take it to work and let those folks eat it. So I don't eat it all. So yeah, just rediscovering the things that made you happy and then making time for those things.
Love it. And she had him when she was a baby. That's why she looks like she's just barely over 32 herself.
So personally, for me, I'm very eclectic in my discovery of myself. I can't really say that I assign myself to any hobbies or anything like that. More free spirited, and so I definitely grabbed onto those reins and did things that I was afraid to do. You know, going places by myself, going to the movies by myself, taking myself out to dinner alone. Or just going anywhere, just finding something, an event to go to, and not knowing anyone, and being able to still feel comfortable with myself. So
it's freeing and it's peace at the same time. So, you know, they say divorce or the end of a marriage is just like death, and there's a grieving period that you have to go through or you will go through. How did you handle going through the grieving period, and how are you handling the beginning of the grieving period?
well, I think as Josie spoke of, the grieving doesn't start after the divorce. If you're in a relationship and you see it declining, you're grieving during that process of it. I think coming to the divorce factor, I'll speak for me, that actually was enlightening because I actually release myself. Not to say that my grief it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. I think I was more sad or had more tears during those years of the decline than actually at the end of the divorce. Because at the end of the divorce, I had a few things going on. First, I was still grieving my relationship, but time. You know, it was the time I had to find me. You know, I still went through a period of crying, but it was like I say to my kids sometimes, pick a day. Pick a day, because on that day, you need to stop crying and start living. And that's what I did. I cried for, as Josie was saying, years. Years of crying. And once I got to the end of the divorce, I can't say, I know I didn't have as many tears. I know I didn't. It was almost like I could finally breathe.
They often say women...
I exhaled, literally, I did. And not in the sense of a literal sense, but I did. It was freeing for me.
I love it. Did you do anything else that was freeing for you?
Outside of my personal travel, cut my hair, just self-discovering and not being afraid to hide, no longer hiding behind those imperfections. You know, it was more of I had to, my self-love, and I'm sure we all go through times when we don't like the way that we look, but you have to find some balance because there's some things about how we are physically we can't change.
Right.
For me, it was my hair. I didn't want to cover it up. I didn't want to do any of those things that help hide those imperfections. So I cut it. And I didn't have to worry about trying to cover it up anymore.
And you look fabulous.
So.
She does. And what about you, Josie, on this journey?
So the grieving for me, I think it's different for everyone. I was so immersed in my kids. I have 4 of them. So I was so immersed in, their school activities, their church activities, after school activities, making sure we still got those trips to Disney and trips to South Carolina to see the grandparents. So there was so much going on in my life. I didn't even realize things were so bad. Right? I'm so busy trying to keep my kids happy.
Playing the role.
Yes, just playing the role. I didn't realize, my marriage is really, really suffering. And it wasn't because of all those things I just mentioned. There were just other factors. That's a totally different show, right? There are other contributing factors where I just, regardless of what was happening around me, I didn't allow it to happen to me and to my kids. I just kept advancing forward. Just do what needs to be done. I focused on work and I focused on my kids. And so as the kids got older, then I realized, well, what about me?
Yeah.
I got to figure this thing out. So yeah, I used to have moments of crying about my marriage situation, whether it be something my kids are going through. But I ran out of tears. I literally ran out of tears. I became numb. I got to a point where I couldn't respond. And my face.
You said, I remember you sharing this.
Yeah.
And I said to you, it's a significance of, it signifies your strength. It was showing you.
But I thought, what is happening to me? And I was just, someone asked me something, they didn't agree, or they had a different opinion. It was just, okay. I can't worry about it anymore. And like you, I cut my hair. Your body is going through these physical changes because of the stress that you're going through. So your hair is thinning, your hair is coming out. You're losing weight, you're gaining weight, but you're not doing anything different. So I'm not eating a lot. So what is happening to me? So you have to slow down and just say, you know what? I can't do anything about these situations. I got to focus on me. And so I eventually came to that point. But it's a range of emotions until you run out. And then, like you say, you put a date on it and you say, we're not doing that. We need to advance and move forward.
That's probably why they say women leave a marriage emotionally long before they physically leave a marriage.
100% agree.
I also hear people say, oh, I don't know what it's going to be like with my spouse when the kids go off to college. Because it's been the kids that have been the glue, and now it's just the two of you, and you have to get to know each other, you have to experience each other, you don't have those other distractions of the kids' activities that kept you together. Do you feel like that was one of the things that kept you in it as long as you were in it?
I would say I would definitely say I can mirror some of what Josie was saying. You're busy mothering and wifing, if I could use that as a word. And so I will say that it definitely, so by the time my first three left, and it was just the one and the two of us, I was looking for more growth in the relationship. And it just seemed like it was a big light shining on the big nothing that was there. And I could definitely see it even more. But it was an accumulation of years of decisions, disappointments, emotional, because you can emotionally separate and still be married, and then coming back together again. So, like Josie said, marriage is all to share and talk about. It could be a whole bunch of different topics, but after a while, you do see it. You see it. It's glaring, and it's looking at you, and it's like you only can keep fixing this same wheel so many times, and it just keeps going around, coming back and going down and coming back. And
when duct tape doesn't work, that's not duct tape works for everything. So you try everything, and you do reach that point where I've done all I could do. And so yes, the kids leaving, the empty nest, because like you said, staying in it for so long. So this year would be September 1st would be 33 years for me. And so I didn't stay in my marriage because of my kids. I was asked that question so many times, and mostly when they ask you that question, did you stay for? Why did you stay so long? And then they answer the question themselves because of the kids. No, I can't say that, but it did take me a long time to figure out why did I stay so long. But I stayed there because it was safe. It was something familiar, and it was easier to stay than to go through a divorce and all that entire process and pack up a house, sell a house. It's just easier to stay in that place, and it's comfortable. You can get really, really comfortable. So when the kids did leave and go off to college and start living their own lives and doing their thing, I was like, okay, we don't have to worry about 4 different restaurants to eat at because I only eat fish. I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork. We can just figure this thing out between the two of us. So plan vacations, plan to go out to dinner together, plan to go to the movies, and then a lot of days it would be, well, I don't feel like going now. After we planned, right? Or bought tickets, I don't feel like going now. It's like, are you going to sit around here on Pete's couch? That's what I used to say. and my thing is, eventually, a lot of times I would say, you know what, he doesn't feel like going. I would get undressed, crawl right back in the bed next to him, and we would just watch TV. And after a while, it was like, no, I'm still going. So I learned to go places by myself a long time ago and was totally okay with it. Not just the road trips, but I can take myself to dinner. I got my favorite restaurants that I like to go to. I can, go to the movies by myself. I don't need anybody to go to the movies with me, to go out to eat with me. I can do it completely by myself because you have to get out of the house. That's where that depression sinks, it begins to seep in. When you continue to look at those 4 walls, it's not helping you. It's not helping your marriage. You have to get out and live. We talked about, some people say, you only live once. Well, you live every day.
Yeah.
And we should be getting out there living our best lives. Now, every day is not a great day, but get the best thing out of that day that you can, because we've been blessed with that opportunity. Every day our feet hit the floor, we should be thanking God for that day and giving back, doing something either for ourselves or someone else.
And it's empowering. Like I tell people, I'm a great date. I date myself all the time. I'm a great date. I know what I like. I know where to take myself. And when we talk about that self-love, self-healing, and empowerment, being comfortable enough, because some people are not at that place where they're comfortable enough to go to dinner by themselves or go to a movie by themselves. But if I don't feel comfortable with me, how can I ever feel comfortable with someone else?
And that's the piece right there. That's why self-love is important. So,
and on this journey, how important is it to have a good support system while you're going through this?
Oh, definitely need my sisters. I don't know where I would be without them, actually. Having that support and having people that you can be vulnerable to and honest and share sometimes you're ugly and just be truthful with it and not have anyone judge you for it.
That's so important, not to be judged.
Yeah, and we are blessed to have that. And thanks to you. Like our connection started last summer based on a photo shoot that you invited me to. And then our mutual friend was Nicole, Short. And so that's how we all came to be. And then more ladies have joined the group, and I pulled more people in. And so it's grown. But I think it's a healthy group of women that feel it's a safe space to share. And then sometimes there are some one-on-one. I called her a few weeks ago. I was feeling a certain way about a situation, and I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody else at that moment other than Adrienne. I needed Adrienne. And so it's very important to have that circle of friends, and the quality over quantity. Make sure it's the right people that are in that circle, because some people gravitate to you for different reasons, and sometimes it's selfish reasons.
Yes.
And in this season that we're in, we need people to be our true, genuine friend. We don't need people that's trying to pull from us because we're trying to leave a situation. And so quality over quantity is definitely important.
Absolutely. I agree with that. As we get older, they say your circle gets smaller, but sometimes it increases in value when it decreases in size. So, yeah. Are there any words of wisdom that you would want to share with anyone who may find themselves going through a divorce at some point? Anything you want to leave them with?
Well, I want to say, too, I don't hate my husband. I don't hate that man. I love him. I'm not in love with him, and I know that we're not the best options for one another at this point in our lives, and I think that's okay. But be honest with yourself about the role you played in your situation. You stayed in your marriage. You decided to stay there with that man or that woman, if you're a man listening. So own your part in that. Be honest with yourself. Get out and enjoy life. Like I said earlier, don't stay in those 4 walls and dark rooms. It can get very, very depressing. Get therapy. I'll say it again.
More therapy.
Get therapy.
Therapy is so important.
Because when you're going through separation, divorce, it's not just about you and that person that you're separating from or divorcing. It's not even just about those two and their offspring. It's about you. It's about everybody around you. And so when I say therapy and therapy again, when you start to peel the onion, right? You go back to your childhood. Every therapist does that. They will take you back to your childhood, and you realize that there are things that you haven't unpacked and that are unresolved from your childhood that impact who you are now. And so you have to go into this situation very open and honest about who you are and the role that you played.
Thank you.
I agree with everything that Josie said, and I think the other thing would be just, as she stated, definitely be honest with yourself. Talk to yourself, listen to your thoughts, and trust yourself. Definitely trust yourself, because when you're in a relationship or marriage with a significant other, you're always engaging and bouncing your ideas off of that person. And now a lot of that is within yourself because you're making a decision for you. So you do have to trust yourself and find that strength and courage in you.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I will add, though, pray.
Yes. Yes.
And not for another man. You know, we're not praying for selfish reasons, but pray for strength,
Yes.
for guidance, for wisdom, to make the right moves. And when you don't, that God protect you through this situation anyway. Be careful. There are a lot of people that have been waiting for you to become available and single. They've been watching and waiting. They do not
so
all
true.
mean you well.
True.
They will say you deserve better, and in their mind, better is after you've been first lady.
Right.
Better to them is being their side piece. I don't know how that's better, but be careful of the wolves, and just take your time with the process. Don't put so much pressure on yourself, like I have to do this now. I have to move on right now. When it's time for you to move on because there are phases. When it's time for you to move to the next phase, you'll know.
And that's important to allow yourself to go through the phases.
Yes.
We live in a microwave society where people want to rush through things, but you have to allow yourself to go through the phase and whatever that process looks like, because it is a process.
Yeah.
Right. And do discover.
Yeah.
Do a lot of things, Don't pick something that you never thought you would ever do. Just do it to do it, and just self-discovery. And sometimes you'll find something that you didn't even know was there.
Or that you don't even like.
Yeah.
And in those situations, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Because we've not been perfect. None of us are perfect. But it's okay to make mistakes and forgive yourself for those things that you probably shouldn't have done, wish you wouldn't have done. But forgiveness is important.
Because we're all human beings having a human experience.
Yes.
And we need to learn to give ourselves grace
Right.
and stop putting so much pressure on ourselves. But we do, and we beat ourselves up for those things. But I want to thank the both of you for your vulnerability and for sharing. And it's been a blessing for me. I'm sure it's been a blessing for the audience. And I want to thank you for tuning in to the Nicole L. Turner Show. Thank you. This was great. I love it. I love the transparency. I love when you talk about, having that circle of friends, because sometimes it can be very challenging, especially with Black women, because we hear so many things about Black women. But to have that circle where you can be vulnerable and nobody's judging you, because people are quick to judge. We see on social media, people behind the keyboards giving all their opinions as if their life is perfect. And so
sometimes you have to take a break from that.
You do.
You have to turn that off. Because sometimes that can be overwhelming as well. Sometimes you can just make a simple post and
people assume it's about you and it's not about you, and you're just sharing good information.
Yeah, be singing a Janet Jackson song. I bet you think this post is about you.
Not just good information. But sometimes we do overshare, right? And so that's when we find ourselves in those situations, overshare with someone that we trusted too soon.
Yeah.
And so we talk about how Black women are. Black women are just like any other women. You just have to be cautious and go into it with an open mind, but just sometimes you have to listen more than you speak, and just determine, what type of environment am I in. I share with you, I found myself in a situation where I felt like I was on a dating game. And once I realized what was happening, I'm going to the restroom, and I snuck up those stairs, and I got out of there so fast because I realized, okay, this is not my friend. This is someone that's out here got me. I'm counting the number of women there, the number of men. Wait a minute. So but be smart. So that's the other thing. You got to be smart about it and pay attention to what's happening around you because people are waiting for you.
And that's all the way around. It doesn't matter how old you are. There's no age speculation on that at all.
Nope.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because wisdom has nothing to do with age, and being perceptive has nothing to do with age.
No.
And in this environment where everyone's on the take, and if you are a certain person and they think you have a certain thing, let me coattail you or let me attach myself to you.
Yeah.
So you have to be very aware
Right.
of people's intentions and see people's heart, and so that's important.
Because that's very true. That's very true. Because some people aren't there for just to be part of your experience. They're trying to find how to get what they need from it. And you're absolutely correct. I've seen that myself. So.
And it's funny you talked about how some of these people, telling you deserve better, but they really want you to be the side piece. Yes. Earlier, I had an interview with Mary Morrison, who's an amazing author and screenplay writer. She's doing movies as well, and one of her movies is about the single husband. And I was telling her how so many of the people who go into the DMs are people who are married, right? And it's just interesting what's out there now. And we just have to, have that spirit of discernment about not just in friendships, but any potential, anything.
Yeah.
But we also have to have it with ourselves, too.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to just be going through a marriage ending to be on a journey of self-discovery and self-love and finding what you like and who you are. Because like they say, if you're the same person 30 years later, then there's a problem. If you're the same person at 50 as you were at 20, we don't think the same.
Yeah.
We don't desire the same. So we should always be on a journey of finding what works for us. And it's okay to start over.
Right.
And I think that's where people get lost. They don't recognize that, okay, you tried this, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like I think I posted something the other day that says, I'm on my 4th start over. And it's okay.
It is.
I
mean, and I would have to say too, I'm definitely, I believe in marriage. I would at least say that. I'm definitely a marriage advocate. When I have girlfriends that are transitioning and considering, I try to have those conversations because they were had with me as well, with people that I was close to try to see if it could be circumvented. And I tried everything I could. I believed in marriage. I wanted it. But my case just didn't end that way. However, if there's a marriage that can be salvaged, yes, by all means. If you can.
Right.
And it's not going to take away from the growth that you're trying to have, or, you can come to something, to mediate it, but at the same time, everybody's journey is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because I don't want to say I don't believe in marriage, but maybe I'm in the middle.
But you're
transitioning right now.
I am transitioning.
You're transitioning.
But and it's not even because of the people part of it. The individuals in that union. It's the politics and the legalities around it. It's
like Oprah and Stedman. Or like Goldie Hawn and was it Kurt Russell? Kurt Russell, yeah.
The society has made it so difficult, not necessarily just to be comfortable knowing that if this doesn't work out, it's okay.
It is. I agree with that as well.
But I would never get married again. I never would.
And see, and I'm the opposite. I wouldn't mind. And for the first, I was 47 when I divorced, and I was 17 when I met my husband. So
you were a baby.
I was with the same person for 30 years. So yes, there was a lot about me that I didn't know. But by the time I turned 50, I did. I wanted to be married by that time. I've definitely come to some resolve. It's been 9 years almost, and I'm still not married, and it's okay. I had to discover that was okay, and I had to come to peace with that I'm not, and I may not get married again, and I need to be okay with that.
I don't want to put the
You can live
seat down ever again. I don't want to go through the process like 30 years, 33 years for me. I don't want to go through the process of learning someone else all over again.
That is a lot.
Not at this age.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I actually like the house quiet. Now, I'm not going to say I don't miss a man.
And the companionship.
Yes.
I definitely.
I want that. I want that and I need that, but I don't have to marry.
Right. Totally get it. But thank you again. I really appreciate this. This has been great for me. And I'm not somebody who's been married or going through a divorce, but it's still been a wonderful conversation. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed having Josie and Adrienne on the show. And we kept the conversation going even after the show ended. So we're going to share some of that conversation because it was just as enlightening as the initial conversation. So check it out. Sister Circles.
Sister Circles. And the things that we share is community.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
I love it.
that's
Again.
how I started, and that's how I would communicate.
Y'all should have some shirts or something.
So that's what my friends back home, that's what we like. This is community. So community was whoever I was talking to. So this is who we're talking to. And if it's me, you, and Josie, this is the community, right? This is it. This is it. And even amongst in groups, I still think if there's a community, like if Josie and I are talking about something and she's sharing something with me and it's in community, that's where it's going to stay.
I love it.
In community.
And it's not that, again, everybody brings their own individuality and a certain quality to the group. So it's not that you don't trust that person, just certain things you need to just have that conversation with that particular person. And it's just easier that way sometimes.
It is.
Just based on our experiences.
I love it.